It was the summer of 2025, and Deftones just put out one of my favorite albums of the year, Private Music, and I was smitten. I cannot tell you how much I love that album. And I thought to myself, wow, is this the best album Deftones have ever put out? I need to do an album ranking. Well, tick tock, it's been almost a year, but I finally got around to it. Tonight, the very best albums of Deftones, ranked first to last. Next. Welcome, metal enthusiasts, to a long-awaited episode of the Metal Dude Abides. Yes, I am a nerd at heart. I put together little spreadsheets every of videos I want to do, and kind of have an order of things that I want to get to. And so, as I was saying in the intro, last summer, man, I loved the brand new Deftones album, Private Music, and I was like, you know what? I do a lot of discographies about some of the older bands that kind of came out all the way back in the 70s. We do something called the Hall of Fame series, and so far all the bands that have been in the Hall of Fame have been bands that started off in the 70s. So I thought it would be nice to, move it up a little bit and maybe do a more recent band like Deftones. So I put it in my little spreadsheet. I'm going to do this. And it just kept getting bumped. And I got busy with something. And I was going to do it this week. But then I got something that would come up at work. Anyway, I finally finished going through the entire Deftones discography and put together the top 10. Why a top 10? Because it's so convenient. They've put out 10 albums. This was a little more difficult than I thought it was going to be for two reasons. Number one, the Deftones have such an amazing catalog. Really hard to kind of differentiate some of these great albums from each other. And number two, there were eras of Deftones music that I didn't really listen to in the time. So I'll talk about that when we get to those eras. But I really had to go back in and really reintroduce myself to some of this music that I had missed out on. So without further ado, I've delayed this long enough. Let's get to it. The top 10 Deftones albums of all time. Coming in at number 10, might be a little bit of a surprise for some people, Saturday Night Wrist. Now, first and foremost, that's kind of an odd title. And so, looking through articles and whatnot, Chino claims that the meaning behind this title is, when you fall asleep and your arm goes to sleep, right? And you get that numb feeling. Apparently, that's what he's referring to with Saturday Night Wrist. I'm not sure I'm buying it, but okay. It's the lead singer of the band saying it, so I'll take it. And if that is truly the meaning behind the title of this album, it is appropriate, because this album's a bit of a snoozer. I just don't feel like this is Deftones putting out their best efforts. I can feel like the band's not a cohesive unit on this album. There's some sort of divisions going on. The music and the vocals are not in sync. You really don't get any of those great Stefan riffs going. It's pretty much a very mellow snoozer of an album without much cohesive sound. So to me, this is a slam dunk for the absolute bottom of the barrel in the Deftones discography. Their number 9 album is not going to be a surprise to many long-time fans. Gore. This is a bit of an experimental album, and it just doesn't really hit the mark. However, I do think this album is a little bit underrated, and I'll tell you why. I think the reason it garners so much hate is because it does not start off well. Some of the worst songs on the album come at the very beginning. But if you go all the way to the end of the album, I think two of the best songs on there are Phantom Bride and Rubicon. So if you want to give Gore another try, do yourself a favor. Go to the very end of the album and listen to the last two songs, and I think you'll find a couple of really buried undiscovered gems in the Deftone catalog. Coming in at number 8, the self-titled Deftones album. The reason it's ranked so low is this is another swing and miss at the beginning of the album. One thing you can always depend on from the Deftones is they always start their albums with really good bangers of songs. Like we'll talk about, if you talk about the greatest hits of Deftones, you're going to see a lot of the songs that they open their albums with, because they really like to get things going in a really strong direction, and I appreciate that. Once again, a little bit of a swing and miss at the top of this album. Now, the big hit off this album is a song called Minerva. There's a lot of great Deftones songs on here. Many people put this in that upper echelon of songs. It's just okay for me. I don't think this is nearly as good as some of the other hits, and we'll talk about this later on in the program here, but I describe this album as kind of a low event album. You get through listening to it, and you're like, man, that was all right, but it wasn't really memorable. Like, you're like, I don't really remember any standout moments. It's kind of like, I don't know if you've ever been reading a book late at night, and you read a page, and you get to the bottom of the page, you go, what did I just read? Right? You have to go back and reread it. I kind of felt when I was putting this rankings together, I would go back and listen to the album, and the album would be over. I'm like, what did I just listen to, right? Like, it just didn't really stick with me. So it has to go in here at number 8. All right, right now you're probably a big fan of the Deftones, and that's why you're watching this, and you're going, this dude has done nothing but insult my favorite band on the earth, and he hasn't liked any of the first 3 albums. A little bit of an exaggeration. I think they're all okay albums, but there's good news. Those first 3 albums, I think, are in a category all their own. They're kind of the weak 3. Everything from this point on, sensational. But because all of the albums coming up are sensational, this is where maybe controversy starts to take hold. This is where maybe a hot take comes in. Because at number 7, the iconic Around the Fur. I have a feeling that if you had 100 people do lists of the Deftones, Around the Fur would universally be rated higher than I'm rating it here. But again, I want to say, a sensational album. It's just everything else in their catalog is sensational. So the margin between these albums, back to why it took me so long to do this ranking, is so tight. So why did I put Around the Fur here? Arguably 2 of the biggest hits in the entire Deftones. 2 of my favorite songs, My Own Summer Shove It, and Be Quiet and Drive Far Away. 2 sensational songs. And I think that's why this album gets up. First of all, it's got that iconic cover. And then it's got 2 of the best songs in the Deftones catalog. But we're not here to talk about, ranking a couple of songs. We're here to do the entire album. And I just think the other 6 we're going to talk about are more consistent from start to finish. So believe it or not, folks, the iconic Around the Fur, number 7. Coming in at number 6, Adrenaline. This is a little bit of an ironic choice for a couple reasons. Number 1, if you follow my channel, you know I'm not really a big fan of nu metal. And I don't think there would be much debate to say Adrenaline is the most nu metal albums in the Deftones library. Before I move off this point, Deftones gets lumped into the nu metal, and yes, there's elements of nu metal, but the one thing I will say about Deftones is even as people try to classify them now, I think right now they would be considered alternative metal. It's hard to classify Deftones music because they have a lot of varied influences. That's why I don't like nu metal, but I've always loved Deftones. So there's kind of a distinction there, but I think it's because you really have to squint hard to classify them as a nu metal band. but arguably this is the most nu metal of the bunch, and I absolutely adore this album. Always have, always will. I think the highlight for Deftones is Chino has just one of the most unbelievably hypnotic voices in the history of heavy metal. That's probably the main attraction for me. But Stefan's guitar is just, he has some of the most original riffs, raw riffs, and he does so much with this. And I think some of his best riffage is right here. The very first Deftones song, like the first track on the album, the debut album, is a song called Bored. What a way to introduce yourself to the heavy metal community. I absolutely love that album. But it doesn't stop there. They have Minus Blindfold, they have 1 Week, they have Nosebleed. They just keep on going. There's some of those most intense vocals on the song 7 Words. And finally, the riff on Engine Number 9. Even though that, if now we're talking about a song that's a little bit more nu metal than most, but you can't ignore Stefan's riffs on that song. All in all, this is a very raw album, but it's a very powerful, intense album. I could see, Adrenaline was one of those that I really had to restrain myself from moving it even higher on the list. Once again, love, love, love this album. Coming in at number 5, Ohms. I don't think Ohms quite gets the credit it's due because it did come quite a bit later in the catalog. But what I said earlier about the Deftones really sticks here. You really want a good album opener. Genesis is genius. I love that opener. I also like a good closer, and this title track, Ohms, is an excellent way to end the album. But there's some other songs on here that I really like. Urantia? I don't know how to pronounce it. But once again, we were talking about Stefan earlier. One of his best riffs. Ceremony is really good. So this is one of those. I'll say this about Ohms. I think if you go through the first 4 or 5 tracks on this album, you think to yourself, okay, this is going to be number 1, number 2, top 3. The second half of the album kind of trails off a bit and kind of limits how high this can go. But make no mistake, those first 4 or 5 tracks are amongst Deftones' finest moments, and it pushes it all the way up into number 5. Coming in at number 4, Diamond Eyes. Once again, let's just state the obvious. Deftones always starts their albums off with a real banger. This is no exception. The title track gets this album kicked off beautifully. And this is really a return to form album for Deftones in that, if you remember correctly, the previous album was the album we ranked all the way down at number 10, Saturday Night Wrist, which is a very soft, more maybe that shoegazy style. This comes back to big, massive riffs, big, heavy sounds, big, gnarly, intense vocals. I love Diamond Eyes. You have so many good songs on here. Royal, You've Seen the Butcher, Prince, Rocket Skates. This is maybe their heaviest, at least at this point in their catalog, easily the heaviest album they had done since probably the opening, their debut album, Adrenaline. And once again, there's going to be a trend here. I'm not going to try to say the guy's name. You'll have to look it up. But there is a running theme that you're going to see throughout many of the rest of these albums. I love the producer they use for Diamond Eyes. He's going to be used in 2 other albums that we have yet to talk about. I think he is a genius. I think he knows how to get the most out of Deftones. Deftones made a couple of hints or innuendos in their last album that this might be it. We might be hanging it up. I hope that's not the case. But Deftones, listen to the Metal Dude. If you guys come back for an 11th album, and we want you to, bring back this producer. He is a genius. He knows how to bring that Deftones sound to life. So again, coming in at number 4, Diamond Eyes. Last summer, I fell in love. Deftones put out Private Music, and I was smitten. In fact, that's the whole reason I'm doing this video, is I thought to myself at the time, is this the absolute best Deftones album of all time? And if I'd have done this video probably in September or October of last year, I probably might have gotten a little carried away and put it at number 1. But I waited a few months, let the recency bias settle just a bit. And even though it's tight, these top 3 are the absolute best. Like, there's another layer to Deftones, and we're in it now. But coming in at number 3, Private Music. If I were to describe the Deftones in 2026, I would say, well, they still have a little bit of the new metal roots into it. There's a couple of songs on this album that come back to that original kind of new metal homage. But the thing about the Deftones is they're now more classified, as I said earlier, as like an alternative metal band. Kind of hypnotic. Some people would call it like shoegaze material. It's the kind of music that you feel like you're maybe sucking on a little helium and you're getting lifted, you're kind of floating off the ground a little bit. But the brilliance of Deftones is, while they're lifting you off the ground, Stefan, Abe, and the boys are just hammering you with monster drums, monster riffs. This is one of the heaviest Deftones albums of all time, but yet it still has somehow this kind of uplifting feel to it. Crazy, the genius into this album. If you are one of those who are like, no, you should have stuck at number 1, I wouldn't argue too much. What's a good example of what I'm talking about? The opening track. Of course, the Deftones are going to come out with a tremendous opening track. My Mind is a Mountain. Woof, does that thing hit you in the face. And if you want to take a nice stretch to this album, Ecdysis, and I don't even know if I'm saying that right, through the song Souvenir, just brilliance. Through that whole stretch, every song is good. But my favorite song, Milk of the Madonna. I did a top 50 songs of 2025 last year. Milk of the Madonna easily placed in my top 20. The album Private Music was in my top 10 albums of the year. And once again, let me just say, who's the producer on the album? The same guy that did Diamond Eyes, and the same guy, if you want a little bit of a spoiler, who's going to be in the number 1 album as well. He knows how to combine that hypnotic shoegaze with that heavy, riffy, crunchy stuff. I love this album. I can't believe it's coming in at number 3, but there are 2 albums that have yet to be named that must be reckoned with. I might be wrong about this, but I think if you polled 100 of the most rabid Deftones fans and asked them, what's the best album the Deftones ever put out? I think probably a plurality, if not a clear majority, would probably say the album I'm going to bring in at number 2, White Pony. What a classic. I do believe that this is a masterpiece. I do believe that this is the signature album for Deftones. I think it is the album that really brought them into the mainstream of consciousness of heavy metal and rock. And once again, let's just start with that very first song, Back to School, Mini Maggot. I don't even know what any of this means, but what a sensational album opener. Really gets the whole thing off to a great start. There's a stretch to this album, Digital Bath through RX Queen. Not a bad song to that entire stretch. One of my favorite stretches in the entire Deftones catalog. And in that stretch, my absolute favorite is a song called Elite. It is among the elite Deftones songs for sure. Knife Party's a really interesting song because at the first of Knife Party, it doesn't seem like it's all that special. Like, yeah, it's a good song. But then they kind of break into this, if you're a fan of Pink Floyd, they kind of get into this whole Great Gig in the Sky thing, where they've got these dramatic female vocals, and they just go off in this really brilliant, beautiful way. Knife Party is sensational. One of their biggest hits of all time is called Change in the House of Flies, also a very good song. And then at the very end of this album, they have a song called Pink Maggot, which links up to the very first song, Mini Maggot. Again, don't know what any of this is about, but from start to finish, this is an absolute masterpiece. If you have this as your number one, I understand. But believe it or not, and you know by process of elimination what it is, there is still one album that's even better. As you get older, you fall into bad habits, and you start doing some ridiculous things. For instance, I can't remember anybody's name anymore. I am terrible with names. I get close. There's a friend of mine at work who's constantly laughing at me because she has to have a decoder ring to even know who I'm possibly talking about, because I never call anybody by the right name. And so I kind of have gotten into a lazy habit of calling this the Koi Pond album because I can never remember the full title of it. But I'm going to break through and I'm going to read the title of this album so I don't mess it up. Koi no Yoken. The absolute, I don't even know if I said it right, the absolute finest, best, most wonderful Deftones album of all time. And will always be known to me as the Koi Pond album, because I can remember that. Anyway, I feel like such a broken record, but I really want to emphasize the Deftones and their album openers. Swerve City is so good. And then once again, there's a stretch on the album between Entombed through the Goon Squad. Oh, every song in that stretch is fantastic. Now, I'm going to talk about the best songs of the Deftones here in a minute, but I'm going to spoil it right now. Because not only is this my favorite album, it also houses my favorite song, Tempest. That, to me, is the ultimate Deftones song, and I'll tell you why. It's got that heaviness, it's got that hypnotic feel, but true to the nature of the song, it's got this incredible swirl to it. It's like you're in the eye of that tempest. It's the storm all around it. There's this heaviness, but you're just kind of floating through the eye of the storm. It's hard to describe, but I cannot tell you what a brilliant song that is. And again, goes back to I just marvel at the combination of styles between that shoegaze, between that heaviness, to just get you feeling like you're being lifted off the ground while you're being barraged with drums and guitars. Very, very impressive. So I've probably gone way out of my league going through the top 10, so why stop there? Let's talk about the best songs in order of the Deftones. All right, we've already talked about all the albums. I've talked about some of these songs, so I don't think this is going to be a big surprise. But let's talk, in my opinion, and this was very difficult. Like, again, there is 5 or 6 songs on all these albums that were under consideration. Limiting this to a top 20 list, you cannot imagine how difficult a chore that was. But let's do it. Coming in at number 20, Infinite Source. 19, Rocket Skates. Number 18, Rubicon. Number 17, still don't know how to say it, Rantia. Number 16, Sex Tape. Number 15, Phantom Bride. Number 14, Rosemary. Number 13, RX Queen. Number 12, Be Quiet and Drive, Far Away. Number 11, 1 Week. All right, we're getting into the top 10 now. Here we go. Number 10, Graphic Nature. Number 9, Ecdysis. Number 8, the song that started it all, Bored. 7, Knife Party. 6, Genesis. 5, Milk of the Madonna. Number 4, My Own Summer, Shove It. Number 3, Swerve City. Coming in at number 2, Elite. And once again, spoiled it earlier, couldn't contain it, the greatest Deftones song of all time, Tempest. So there you go. Deftone fans, I'm so curious. I've been so anticipating putting this together. Put your top 10 albums in order in the comments below. Put your top 10 songs, your top 20 songs, or rank the whole catalog. I don't care. I'm interested to see, did I hit the mark? Am I way off base from the rest of the Deftones fan club? We shall soon see. One of my favorite bands, long overdue. This was harder than I thought it was going to be when I started it because everything in their catalog is so incredibly excellent. But there you have it. And that's our episode. Now, normally when you come in here on Tuesdays, we're usually doing a thing called Fixing the Grammys, where we go year by year and talk about the most excellent hard rock and heavy metal of the year. We just got through finishing up 1996. We're moving on to 1987. You don't want to miss any of those episodes. You don't want to miss. We may be doing more discographies in the near future. So subscribe to the channel. Ring the bell. Feed the YouTube algorithm. And we'll see you back here every Tuesday.